90 Day Fiancé is no stranger to insanity. I would argue that some of reality television's trashiest moments have occurred in this franchise. But what the average 90 Day viewer doesn't understand is just how deep the abyss of garbage really goes. The first season aired on January 12, 2014, more than 10 years ago. That means we've had a lot of time to witness shocking and often inexplicable drama. I'm sure everyone and their stepniece is familiar with the iceberg format by now, but just in case you haven't checked your YouTube recommended in a few years, let me fill you in. Things at the top of the iceberg are quite literally surface level, things that most people have seen or heard about, or things that aren't as bad in comparison to others on the list. The further down the iceberg you go, the more obscure, scary, or upsetting things you'll find. 55% comment. This is referring to when Azan, upon meeting his fiancée Nicole for the first time in Morocco, he said that he's only 55% attracted to her. He also made a comment about her weight.
Physically, I'm attracted to Nicole, but it's not like, just like, for example, 55%.
That came up a lot in their relationship, and this just really set the tone for their whole thing. They will come up again in this section. Schrodinger's hooker. This happened on Happily Ever After, I believe, where Mike's mom, Trish, may or may not have referred to Natalie as a hooker.
Why would she call me that way?
Called you what?
She called me hooker, your mom. She did.
My mom didn't.
Trish repeatedly denied this after it was brought up, but Natalie kept saying that it happened. It was a big argument for their segment, and it caused a huge rift between Mike and Natalie because he continued to side with his mother over his wife. It was a whole big ordeal. Angela taking her boobs out on a tell-all. There's really nothing more to say about this. I mean, I think this was the tell-all where she walked out and immediately started yelling at everyone. It was the one where she got in Yara's face and just really screamed at her in particular. And then she walked right up to the camera and I think she pulled her neckline down or something. That was also when she had her extensions that were trying to be like fake Ariana Grande hair. It looked really bad. That was a really bad tell-all. Nicole and Azan's store. So Nicole and Azan at one point tried to open a beauty store with mostly Nicole's money. Azan said that he contributed some money to it, but I assume he got that money from Nicole because at that point it was basically his full-time job to be getting money from various women around the world.
We've decided to try and open a beauty shop.
Oh my gosh.
I would really, really love to see the store.
I know that, but we want you to see it like when it's ready.
The store never opened. It was never a thing. They explained it to Nicole's mother, who was very perturbed by the situation. Nicole, I don't know if you know this, also had a very young toddler child at the time.
We never winded up going through with it.
So there is no store.
There is no store.
Ella's nationality mix-up. I can't remember if this was on Before the 90 Days or the other way. It might have been the other way, but Ella was this girl who was really obsessed with Japan and Japanese culture. It was her whole intro scene. And then she introduced her Chinese boyfriend.
That is where I found my Asian prince.
Johnny is from China.
As if the two are interchangeable. Like, she was like, oh, I just love Japan, so here's my Chinese boyfriend. That upset a lot of people. People made a lot of videos about that at the time. I almost wanted to put this in level 2 because of the cultural insensitivity, but level 2 has some worse things in it. Bilal lying about his house. Before Bilal brought his fiancée Shaida to America, he never showed her his house on FaceTime or pictures or anything. He said that the reason for this is he wanted to make sure that she was with him for him and not his money, which is kind of a weird thing to do. Like, why are you so obsessed with that? Why are you assuming that she's with you for your money when you've never even shown her that? And also, if you make money a big part of your personality, then it's going to be hard to be with you for you if you are money. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, so Bilal, when she gets to America, he takes her to his childhood home.
A home from the 1900s. Must be an antique. It looks like it could collapse on us any moment now.
No.
That really upset Shaida when she found out that Bilal had lied to her. Alina fired for being racist. Alina was only briefly on Before the 90 Days, I think. Her storyline with Caleb was his name, that was her partner, was discontinued because people had dug up some racist posts on her Facebook or Instagram. I'll put some of them on screen now for you to see. When Alina was fired over this, a lot of people were upset that other racist cast members were not fired, but I think that comes down to the fact that Alina's storyline was kind of boring anyway, so they found a reason to fire her and they just got rid of her. Mike running away from Jimena. This was the last thing that ever happened on screen between Mike Burke and Jimena, if I remember correctly. And they were on a FaceTime call with Mike's friend who speaks Spanish because Jimena was trying to explain her feelings to her so Mike could get the situation with where they were at in their relationship. She wanted to break up with him, essentially. She called him a disgusting bug or like a weird bug or something like that at one point. And Mike, after hearing all of this, ran away into an alleyway across the street. Baby girl Lisa saying the N-word. This is in a similar vein to Alina being fired for being racist. I can imagine Lisa is technically fired from 90 Day Fiancé as well for this. Baby girl Lisa, we call her baby girl Lisa because Usman, who she was dating at the time, actually married to, called her baby girl Lisa despite her being about 20 years older than him.
However, you do not argue Jenny Worms. You say things that are totally. There are some things that Lisa said to me, even my enemy, I cannot say that. As you know, you calling me name. Or recent last week, Lisa, you call me nigga, which I know it is totally inappropriate in America.
And to the ones who keep saying I'm racist, look, I used the wrong word. I apologize. It was on my post. But you guys just want to raw dog it to no end. So you go right ahead because now the truth will come out. Sorry, when the truth comes out, don't come to me and apologize.
I believe this was an incident that occurred on Instagram Live. I think it might have happened more than one time. Leda arrested for fraud. Leda was a pretty hated cast member from the very beginning. She was dating a guy named Eric, and he lived with his daughter at the time, who paid half of the rent, by the way, so it's not like she was just freeloading. And Leda wanted her out of the apartment, didn't want her in her life at all, which is ridiculous. If you're gonna marry somebody with children, why don't you want their children to be part of your life? Leda was recently arrested for fraud, this year in fact. I don't remember exactly how much money it was. I think it was just a couple $1,000s that she had stolen from her place of work. Larissa arrested by ICE. Larissa Lima is such a classic 90 Day cast member. She's not necessarily the best person in the world, but I have been thoroughly entertained by her watching this show. Anyway, Larissa was arrested in September 2020 by Immigration Customs Enforcement, but she somehow managed to remain in America, where she still is today. So that's why this is only in level 2. Louise and Molly's musical argument. This was towards the end of their relationship on the show, where Luis was arguing with Molly for pretty much everything at that point. He just wanted an excuse to leave her. He was blasting music through the house when she was trying to talk to him about why he was mad at her.
Turn off the speaker, Louise. You told me what? What? I'm not scared of you.
He was like running around with the speaker, locking himself in a room, turning the music up even louder.
Just stop it. You're about to mash my hand. You're about to mash my hand. Just turn the thing off.
It was just a very frustrating scene. Not necessarily the worst thing I've seen from Luis. We'll get back to him in a later section. The Lindsay Ryder incident. So Lindsay Ryder is an adult film actress who Gino had previously been in a sugar baby, sugar daddy type relationship with in, I believe, the year 2015. On season 5 of Before the 90 Days, it was revealed that Gino had sent Jasmine's nudes to Lindsay Ryder, and they tried to make it seem like Jasmine had lost her job as a teacher because these nudes were sent by Lindsay to her employer. However, Lindsay said that this never happened. She doesn't even know where Jasmine worked. So I only put this situation in level 3 because if it was true and we knew for sure that Lindsay had caused Jasmine to lose her job, I would put this lower. This is just such a really messed up situation, no matter what the truth of it is. Mahmoud arrested for domestic violence. Earlier this year, Mahmoud was arrested for domestic violence following an incident between him and Nicole on the street of LA. It was outside, and it was kind of similar to that one scene when they were in Egypt and he kind of grabbed her arm. I only put this in level 3 because he wasn't actually charged with anything. He was only arrested. He did go to court over it. He seems to not have been charged with anything. He's back in Egypt right now. James ruining his family business. This is from the most recent season of The Other Way, which is airing right now. James is an elevator repairman, and he works with his family. Before he was married to Maytalia, he was married to an American woman who wanted him to move from Maine to Florida because she didn't like the weather. So he left his family business, causing them to downsize, and it was a big problem for his brother, who also worked there, for his parents. And so now here he is with Maytalia, moving to Indonesia, not just to Florida, all the way to Asia, a different continent, and ruining his family business again. We've yet to see how this situation will play out on the show. It's really just now getting started, but I do not have high hopes at all. Mary's colon cancer scam. Brandon and Mary are probably one of the more well-known couples in terms of people who are the most toxic on 90 Day Fiancé. Mary was posting on her social media a few months ago that her stomach has been having some problems and stuff, and eventually she said, "I have colon cancer," and set up a GoFundMe for people to help her with that. Then she's announced that she just thought she had colon cancer, but she didn't actually, and they didn't know what was wrong with her. So basically they had just lied to get money. Anfisa keying idiot into George's car. I mean, I have nothing else to say about that. That speaks for itself, you know? Anfisa keyed idiot into George's car. There were some other bad moments, though. She would hit him a lot of the time. George said some really misogynistic things pretty often. Danielle throwing the divorce binder at Muhammad. This is probably the most iconic 90 Day Fiancé moment besides anything with Big Ed. Danielle, who was from Ohio, went all the way to Miami to harass Muhammad, her husband who she had been separated from at the time, and she had this whole binder full of evidence that he had used her just to come to America.
That was nice of you.
You're a user, Muhammad. You used me.
And they were arguing outside, and she threw it at him, and then the cops showed up and they told her that she would have been arrested if she had thrown that at him inside. Harley's drunken speech. Libby and Andre are an old couple on 90 Day Fiancé. If you're new to the franchise, you might not know who these two are. Elizabeth is the American, Andre is from Moldova. Andre famously does not have a lot of respect for women, and people don't really like that about him, including Libby's family. Charlie is Libby's brother, and at their wedding that they had in Moldova, because they wanted to have one in each of their home countries, Charlie got drunk and basically insinuated that Andre was the worst human being alive.
You need to stop paying for your bull. Get your together.
And thankfully nobody really spoke English there except for Libby's family, so they were the only ones who understood what he was saying. But of course you can tell people's tone and stuff regardless of language.
Enough. Don't come to America.
Ash's misogynistic seminar. Ash is another forgettable person from the 90 Day franchise. He was only on one season. Ash, I think he was like a dating coach or something like that, so he held this seminar for a bunch of single women trying to tell them how to find a boyfriend, and basically what he said was, women don't know how to think and men do.
The women were at home. They were quite happy. They were cooking, they were looking after the kids.
So do you think it's what we should be doing now to balance up?
I'm not saying that right now.
Okay.
Mahogany's house. In my notes for this, I put house in quotation marks and a question mark after it. Mahogany was a 24-year-old Peruvian woman who was dating a 50-something-year-old, I think he was 50-something-year-old, from America named Ben. When Mahogany brought Ben to her house, it clearly was not her house at all. There were no pictures of her or her friends or her family anywhere. She would go into rooms and not even know what was in the room. She'd be like, oh, this is a bedroom? I don't know. It was really bizarre. People thought that she maybe just got an Airbnb to stay at for the time that Ben was in Peru so she could stay away from him and keep him away from her actual house. Ben is kind of creepy, so I do get that. Sarper's notebook. This was revealed on the first tell-all that Sarper and Shekinah ever appeared on. I'm sure you all know this. Sarper is the guy who slept with 2,500 women before committing to Shekinah. Sarper brought out on this tell-all, he brought out a notebook that was full of X's. Every paper was covered in X's and had a date at the top. And each X represented a woman that he had had sex with. I can't think of a more disturbing object than Sarper's notebook. He brought this up in the new season of The Other Way that he's also on. He said that he has this kind of OCD-like habit of counting things all the time. The women in the notebook, that's not the only thing he counts. Gino refusing to let Jasmine see her children. This is something that has occurred on the most recent season of 90 Day Fiancé Happily Ever After. Gino has been refusing to file Jasmine's adjustment of status paperwork, so if she doesn't get her green card, she can't leave America and come back, meaning she wouldn't be able to go visit her children in Panama, her home country. There was even a scene in the most recent episode as of recording this where Gino said, yeah, you can go see your kids, implying that he wanted her to just leave America and not come back. I don't think I even need to explain how evil it is to keep a mother away from their children or to keep children away from their mother. Like, you can have your opinions on Jasmine moving to America without her kids, but what Gino is doing is way worse, I think. Stephanie's departure from the franchise. There are multiple Stephanies. I'm talking about Stephanie Davison. She had this lengthy Instagram post about how the show really edits these people to look completely different than they do in real life, and how the producers are abusive. Her words, not mine. She said that they forced her to film for hours while she was covered in bugs and she couldn't really move or breathe or function or anything, and they wouldn't let her go. She's even said that she was assaulted during the filming. It sounds like the production of her segment, at the very least, was extremely toxic, and I hope that not every recording of 90 Day Fiancé is like that. Paul running away from Karini. Paul has a habit of running away from problems. There was one scene where he actually got out of the car in the middle of the road to run away from an argument with his mom, but that's not what I'm talking about. This was a scene where Paul was with Karini in Brazil, and he basically was sitting there explaining to her that he had been accused of burning down his own home for insurance money.
I was accused of burning my own house.
Afterwards, I guess he's just so embarrassed that he gets up and sprints away into the woods.
It's just not gonna work.
And then minutes later, the cameras, after following Paul and leaving Karini, they come back to Karini. She has been mugged with a machete in Paul's absence. Truly one of the most crazy things that's ever happened on 90 Day Fiancé. Just the sequence of events is baffling to me. Ed and Liz's leaked phone calls. This was back when Liz was calling Big Ed Big Pred, and she wanted him to be taken off the show because of all the horrible things he had done. She leaked some phone calls between the two of them where he was extremely manipulative and verbally abusive to her.
I don't give a fuck, Liz. You're fucked up.
How am I fucked up? Are you going to listen to me, or are you going to take over this whole...
Fuck you, dude. You're fucked up.
Stop speaking to me like this, Ed. Stop!
For you to even offer to give a coworker a home, a ride home to El Cajon, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Stop! Stop belittling me! I don't deserve this. Stop!
It just really shows Ed's evilness and insecurity. Jess throwing her shoes at Colt. Jess is the second Brazilian girl Colt was with on the show. After he divorced Larissa, he started dating this girl named Jess, who's also from Brazil. And thanks to Debbie, Colt's mother, Jess found out that Vanessa, Colt's future wife, who he had been cheating on Jess with, had been staying at their house and looking after their cats.
What? Whoa. Hey!
I do think what Colt did was terrible. However, I put this in level 4 because can you imagine if the roles were reversed in this situation? Can you imagine if it was a man throwing his shoes at a woman? They wouldn't have even shown that scene. Probably they would have canceled their segment. I just don't think it's okay to throw stuff at people. Mark and Nikki. The only thing I have to say about these two is the fact that it was a 58-year-old getting married to a 19-year-old. That is not the worst age gap that has ever happened on the show, but the fact that she's 19 is what made it really bad. David stalking Lana. David visited Lana's country of Ukraine many times to find her in person, only for her to not show up every single time until the cameras were with him. I think he went to Ukraine like 3 or 4 times before that. They were talking for 7 years before they met in person. He went to an apartment that she said was hers. He asked the guy who was living there if she was there, even though it was a fake address. It was very clear that Lana was only with David for money, but at the same time, David was so creepy and it was hard not to feel bad for Lana. It was very obvious that she was uncomfortable being around him. Luis making sexual innuendos at Molly's daughter. This is actually something that happened multiple times. Luis made sexual comments about Molly's daughter, Olivia, and her boyfriend at the time, and Olivia was a teenager, so she was underage at the time.
She's a good man for pass the night with you. You want to him just for love.
No marriage, no, not
just
even
for sleep
thinking.
with him, just for...
Disgusting thing to say to your future stepdaughter who is underage. And there's nothing more I can say about that, really. Nicole's drunken verbal abuse of Mahmoud. This happened recently on the show. It happened over the course of, I think, 5 episodes. They showed a lot of this sequence. Basically what happened was Nicole and Mahmoud were supposed to be going out to dinner for him to meet her friends. When Mahmoud saw what Nicole had been planning to wear to dinner that night, he got mad at her and said he didn't want to go anymore. So Nicole went by herself, she told her friends about what happened, and the friends were like, oh, we'll just go to your house now, so we'll meet him now, so he can't avoid it. They show up in the house, they sit in the bed with him and touch him, which is not allowed in his religion. They start drinking alcohol. He didn't know there was alcohol in the house, not permitted in his religion. And Nicole starts arguing with him when he's trying to be polite to her friends. He basically just says the reason he didn't go was he was tired, and the friends are all like, oh yeah, you look tired. They're all trying to be polite and not cause an argument. Nicole immediately goes, that's not true. You need to tell them the truth. You can see them all holding drinks throughout this too. Like, their drinks are being refilled even, you can notice. Seriously, one of the worst things I've ever seen on the show. It was really hard to watch. I'm glad these two are not together anymore. Mike from season 1 was caught with compromising material of children on his computer. As far as I can tell, I don't think he was arrested or ever did any time in jail for this, which makes me mad. And his wife, who he married on the show, Aziza, is still with him, even after all of this. And they have a young child, too. I hope that makes you as angry as it makes me. Luke dating Madeline when she was 17. Luke and Madeline are a new couple from this season of Love in Paradise. Madeline is currently 19 years old on the show. Luke is somewhere in his early 30s. They've been together for a couple years, implying that they met when she was 17 years old. They never said this explicitly that they met when she was 17, but just the timeline of their relationship, they had to have met when she was 17 years old. Michael running away from Angela. I know it seems a bit crazy to put this all the way in level 5 because everybody has heard of this, but the reason it's down here is because it's terrible. It is one of the worst things that has ever happened because of everything that led up to Michael running away. Angela has been abusing Michael for 7 years at this point. He said he was terrified for his life. He didn't want Angela to know where he was or to find out anything about his life after. And after that whole situation, Angela has been talking about how she'll never be on 90 Day Fiancé again. Kyle Gordy. Kyle Gordy is also from the most recent season of Love in Paradise. He's the sperm donor guy. He's the guy who's obsessed with getting women pregnant.
Sitting down too much kills your sperm. Kill the balls.
But don't touch it.
But they're too big.
He was actually in a Netflix documentary called The Man with 1,000 Kids, I think. The way he talks about women is disgusting. The way he lives his life is disgusting. The way he treated his girlfriend on the show, Annie, was really not okay. There was a scene where she asked him to get like Plan B or something and he refused to. He was also on an episode of Dr. Phil where he was called out for his weird sperm donation hobby.
Yeah. Because the only person that's backing up Kyle is Kyle.
Jeffrey Paschel. Jeffrey Paschel was only on one season of 90 Day Fiancé, and I actually thought that he had a really nice storyline and I really enjoyed watching it. And then I found out everything about him behind the scenes. I don't want to make this video about that whole situation because realistically, it would take a really long time to explain it all, but basically, Jeffrey Paschel wrongfully imprisoned one of his partners. He sexually assaulted her. He physically abused her. Really, really scary. Really, really not okay. He went to jail. He's still in jail, I believe. And his partner, who he was with on the show, is still with him. Alan grooming Kirliam. You probably don't even recognize the names Alan and Kirliam, and I'm not going to blame you for that. They were from season 1 of 90 Day Fiancé. Their story stood out to me because Alan was a Mormon missionary who met Kirliam in her home country of Brazil. Alan was 19 or 20 years old when he was on his Mormon mission. That's usually the age they go. And Kirliam was 12 years old when they met. I actually just had to take a second after I said that sentence to gather my thoughts because it makes me so mad. So basically that means that, he groomed her for about 7-ish years probably until he was able to move her to America. And I want to celebrate their success story, of course. It's rare that there's a couple on 90 Day Fiancé that lasts for that long, but at the same time, the foundation of their relationship is deplorable. Okay, now that I said all of that at once, I realize just how horrible 90 Day Fiancé is. I genuinely cannot fathom how TLC allows these kinds of things to happen in front of their cameras on their network. And the worst part is that the crazier the controversy, the more people will care about the show. And I can sit up on my high horse all I want, but I know I'm not going to stop watching the show. I just think it's important to remember that TLC and their cast members are not your friends, and everything I just said is the reason why. Right now I'm working on some videos about other reality TV shows like Big Brother, Wife Swap, and Man vs. Food, so definitely subscribe if that sounds interesting to you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.